What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chae Cole. As you can see, or if you're listening, you can't see, but you've seen it on the title. But I got some guests with me today, and y'all, I got some special guests in the building. It was supposed to be one, but I got two today, so we going crazy. We got Bishop is in the building, bro. Bishop,
yo, you out of control.
Bishop is
I didn't
here.
know he was gonna do that.
Bishop is here. He was
Yo,
the first
wild,
guest. He was the
bro.
first guest last year.
Dang.
Now he's back again because this man just.
Bishop is crazy.
He taking social media by storm.
Yeah, he is
taking
doing that.
YouTube by storm. That man, 40K. I'm prophesying.
Yeah.
I'm
Prophesying.
40K on YouTube, man. So it's an honor to have Kevin with us. And we got the prophet is in the building.
Man,
We got
this
Prophet
guy-
Javis.
Yo, he didn't say he was gonna do this.
Speak. Nah, look, don't get shot now.
We got Prophet Javis in the building. I'm gonna let them, Kev's not a stranger, but Javis, tell a little bit about yourself for the people.
Javis, born out of Tampa, Florida. Spent most of my time in Carolina, so I'm really from Carolina, but I just like to encourage people. I don't know what this man talking about. I just love to encourage people.
Bro, question. In Florida, are area codes like a big thing? Like here in Charlotte, like people from Charlotte really like being like 704. People like different places like to claim their area code. Is that a thing in Florida?
So I moved when I was in middle school. From what I remember, it may not have been like the area code as much as it was like a city or whatever, like so. Same concept though. Yeah.
That's what's up. And so the man that needs no introduction, Kev Wilson, is in the building. Go ahead and
What up, y'all?
Tell the people something about Kevin Wilson, man.
Damn. Kevin Wilson, host and creator of a Christian podcast with Kevin Wilson.
Hey, put the balloons in the chat, man.
Yeah, put the red balloons in the chat. Look, they need to make different colors, bro.
Yeah.
Like everybody, why you always use the red balloons? 'Cause that's the only
That's
red,
the
that's the only one they got. But yeah, I'm originally from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but I've been here in Charlotte since I was in the 6th grade. So
Okay, you from here?
a little minute now. So we just making it do what it do.
That's what's up.
I never asked why the balloon.
We discussed that on the first episode.
Really?
We did.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I
but you
always be meaning to ask you, but it's just like, but yeah.
It's just branding strategy.
Okay.
Like you see it and you associate it with
We're going
my
up.
brand and
Got
what's
you.
up.
So before we even get into the episode, shameless plug, you got to go back and watch when Kevin was on here the first time. Well, listen to because we didn't record video, but you got to go back and listen to. So now, if you only listen to it, you get to see the man behind a Christian podcast. So let's hop into this conversation, man. Really, so Kev, since the last time he's come on, we talked about a Christian podcast, and he had started Podcast in the Park at this time, I believe, but now it's taking Charlotte by storm. It's taking the world by storm. We got requests to go to different cities and stuff like that. So Kevin, talk to us about the journey of Podcast in the Park. Like, you can give the saved answer, but also give, like what was going through your head, like what. Like, how do you even end up there? How do you end up at a random park in Charlotte? Like, what was that process like?
Man, so started out, podcast been going from 2020. Started at 2020 and it was doing well. It was cool. I mean, I enjoyed doing it. It was the first time I was that consistent with something creatively. Most times, you get an idea, you start it, I do this for maybe 6 months, a year. You're like, all right, the amount of work it take to do it, it ain't keeping me. So I would start stuff. Podcast, I'm like, I really like this. So I kept doing it. About 2020-ish, I'm like, man, I want to do something where I engage with people, like in real time, like where they're at. So I'm thinking, a friend sends me this podcast called A Podcast But Outside. Literally, these two dudes outside having a podcast. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's a dope idea. And I merged that kind of with stuff I was doing in college, going around asking people questions on campus. So I'm like, take that, kind of mix that, the podcast thing. Let me just go outside. So I'm looking for places. I'm searching parks in Charlotte. So I'm looking, Freedom is like at the top of the joint. I'm like, looks dope to me. Yeah. Go over there, walk around, pray. I'm like,
The joint prophetic. Freedom Park.
Freedom Park. Hey, no, for real. For real. Look, God was doing this big one with that one. So I'm like, all right. I'm praying, walking around. This place dope. So I get some equipment. I literally like, I go, so I have to get mics. I have to get a camera because I'm like, I can't do it with, like I can't rely on the 30 seconds or the 30 minutes timer that most cameras have. And so I'm like, I need a camcorder because it has no time limit. And I can't rely on anybody being there to help me out with it. So I'm like, I need something that can work. So I'm looking, I go, and I had enough money to get it, but it probably wasn't the most wise purchase at the time. So I bought it. Same thing, like with the recorder and everything, like just the mobile setup. I needed something that I could take around and really have a whole podcast set up outside. So I'm like, all right, bought that again. I had the money, but it's like, all right, do what else you got now. So did that. Then my little brother was home, and I said, yo, you trying to go out to Freedom? Because I didn't want to go by myself. Yeah. I was I'm pretty introverted. I was like, so he's like, yeah. So we went, set out the table, went to Dollar Tree, make sure I got a sign, a cardboard sign with a little dot with the Sharpie, and I was like, do you believe in God? Because I just wanted to see what people think. And we sat there, posted up, and it was just me and him talking for a minute. Then this couple came up, and it was like, oh yeah, like we want to hop on. I was like, it's happening.
What do I do now?
Right, it's actually happening. So that we had a great conversation, and another person come up, and I'm like, yo, this is really dope. Now I say that it sounds good, but I'm also like, bro, I'm distracted. Bro, I can't, like, I'm in the middle of the park. So things you don't think about before doing that is that you're in the middle of the park. People are riding bikes, doing stuff, cussing, running, and I'm like, I can't focus. Like, I'm listening to the person talk, but I'm like, I hope they don't say nothing and ask me a question because I'm not paying attention. Like, I can't focus. Right. I'll talk a little bit about how overcoming that in a little bit, but I'm doing it, and I'm like, yo, this is dope. Like, I'm talking to random people out here. And so next time I go out there, my boy Chris, I asked him, I still ain't want to go by myself. So he's like, yeah, let's do it. Same thing. I'm like, people, I'm talking to like a little 11-year-old atheist and this and that. I'm like, yo, all right. So keep doing it. Fast forward. People are like, yo, when do you go out there? I'm like, I just go whenever I feel like it. They're like, yo, let us know. Yeah. Like, all right, cool. I kind of don't like that at the time because it feels like now there's an expectation. Yeah. Whereas before I just show up, do my thing, leave when I want, da-da-da. Now it's like I got to show up at a certain time, da-da-da. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. So I remember the first time somebody like pulled up, somebody that was like not a friend of mine. We out there, we in the middle of the episode. This girl walks up, she sits down, and she had a blanket, and she pulls out a Bible and a notebook, and she literally just sitting there on the floor, going through the notes while we talk. I'm like, bro, what's going on? And I talked to her after, I said, yo, blah, 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 where you coming? She's like, yeah, I came from South Carolina, because you put it on TikTok. I'm like, bro, what are you doing here? What are you doing? Yeah. I'm like, go eat, go home. What are you doing? So once that happened, I was like, oh, it's a place for people to come for real. And that's what made me think about it and tap into it and make it expanded. So I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, so let's pause. Let's pause because we're getting into what we see today, right? So you talked about, starting out. Fun fact, I think we met for lunch. Like, me and Kev haven't known each other that long. Every time I say that, everybody's like, you say that all the time. But I think we met for lunch the first time you were going to go out there, and you were telling me about it. I didn't know, exactly what you were going to do. Yeah. But so in that process of just like talking to random people, like what kind of was the revelation from that in and of itself? Like before the people start coming to watch and participate, like or spectate, whatever, or take notes and glean from Bishop. What was those conversations like, and what did that kind of teach you or show you in that aspect?
Bro, I was blown away by how many people thought they were saved and were not.
We're gonna touch on that. Yeah.
Sheesh. So that was one. It's really just like the lost that don't know they lost.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing. People's unbelief in Christ and where that all centered. A lot of people that I met that weren't Christians were Christians, and they had an unmet expectation of what God should do or would do in their life. And so I'm like, oh man, like y'all had a relationship with Jesus, you had this expectation, it didn't get met, now you don't believe. So that was a big thing. And then just people's willingness to actually talk about faith.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Religion, faith is one of those things that's kind of up there with like almost like politics. Like to some people, it's just like you don't speak about that, especially not in public.
Yeah.
But I'm asking people, they come in to the table. Like I ain't begging nobody to come up. They come into the table willingly, saying I do or I don't believe in God. So I was just blown away by people's just. I want to talk about this.
Yeah. So one more question, then Javis, I want you to hop in and ask a question or commentary. But so you can't you can't prepare for what people are going to talk about, what they're going to say, or even if they ask you a question, like you can't be prepared to say, oh, well, we're going to talk about this today, right? To a certain extent. So you're talking to a stranger. Like, did you feel equipped for those conversations? If not, if you did, like, how did you grow into a place to be able to be open, willing to have those conversations? What was that process like in and of itself? Like, did you find yourself having like, let me study more? Let me like, after a few times of having different conversations, like what was that? So take us from beginning to like, oh, like, damn, like, I don't know what y'all talking about, to kind of, okay, I've done it a few times, so maybe there's a pocket, like you said, you notice certain things, like there's a pocket that I got to be skilled up on or really studied about.
Yeah, so I felt like at that time I had really been studying before on like just the faith in general, and then also like I had been looking at like Preston Perry and his channel, like Bold TV was at the time. I think now it's called Apologetics with Preston Perry. So I felt empowered and equipped to go out and speak to people. One, because the information I had, both biblically and just watching people experience. But two, so three things. You got that. You have one, my ability to rely on the Holy Spirit. I'm like, he knows all things, right? So through prayer, through him, I have access to stuff that I might not even know in the natural, right? And then three, I didn't feel, and I guess it's just God's grace, but I didn't feel the pressure to have all the answers. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if it was based on me being able to answer everybody's questions, I still am not equipped to go out there.
Yeah.
Right? And so for whatever reason, I just was like, I'm going to just go out there. What I can answer, I will. And everything else, I'm just pointing you back to Christ or through the Bible most times, or even other resources or whatever. But I didn't feel the pressure of, I gotta know it all. I gotta have it all. Yeah. I just want to talk. So I knew I could talk to people, and I knew that anything that I couldn't answer, God could, as long as I just redirected them there.
That's good. Javis, hop in there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's watching this and they're inspired. They're probably familiar with you already, or they're new and they're like, I want to be used by God like that. And what I'm hearing is that it's not so much about skill and gift as it is about humility. The fact that you're saying, I'm just going, some of the inconveniences you faced early on and you just got through it. And then the point you just made about, I don't know all the answers. How many people want to admit or start something knowing I don't got all the answers? So you touched on it, but like, can you dig a little bit more into that? Because again, like, there's some people out there who gifted, skilled, well studied, but they're afraid to go through and really start it because they're not sure what's all behind that decision.
Yeah, it's like you want to be prepared, right? You don't want to just not know anything and just blindly go out into this field of talking. But you have to know, like, I can't know everything. Or like, if I can study for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the rest of my life, I'm not going to be able to answer everybody's question. So I think the spirit of wisdom, right, with that, and knowing that you can't have it all figured out. So move now and then figure out everything else, right? So that, and then you have just this, for me, it was more about getting to the heart of the person, not so much answering your questions. If I can talk to you and I can get to your heart, you can get to a place where you can accept Jesus and he can answer all your questions. But if I just, if I just point them just to church, that's cool. Some people not going to church. Some people go to church and don't feel seen because they're not. Some aren't. Yeah. But for me, I was like, yo, if I could just talk to the people. And if I'm being honest, I don't even think I had thought that much then. I just had an idea and a vision, and I was like, I'm going to go with it. So to answer your question, to make it more applicable for the person watching, you don't have to have it all figured out. You do have to, study, show yourself approved to God, and make sure you know as much as you can. But the rest, especially we talking faith, it requires faith. Yeah. The evidence of things hoped for, right? Yeah, the evidence of things not seen. Yeah. Substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So if I have it all figured out, is it faith?
That's a good point.
Or is it me walking in knowledge?
Yeah.
Right?
That's good. That's a great point.
So
you got something else?
That boy be loaded.
What problem is Podcast in the Park solving in terms of?
Not yet. We gonna get there. We gonna get there.
Building blocks.
So, all right, that's the initial phase.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about stepping out there. I mean, we did this the last time you came on too. Talk about from a practical standpoint. You're an introvert. You're going out to a space with strangers. Like, what? Talk about those emotions or just like any anxieties about doing that and how you overcame that.
Yeah, so I'm an introvert, but I'm called.
Whoa.
No, for real though. Like,
I need a shirt.
Nah, hey,
that's good.
Hey, I'm about to put that
Don't
on
take
that
that
T-shirt, right?
Don't take that.
Yeah, facts. That's
29. No, 29. So what God calls you to, He equips you for. So for me, I tell this to people all the time. When I was in high school, I felt more nervous about a high school basketball game than I felt about going to the park.
Yeah.
And I recognize now it's because I was called to do it. And so I was equipped for it, and God gave me the grace for it. So that's one. Challenges though, like, it's a little weird. Like, one of the weird things that you wouldn't think about is just the process of getting from the car to the park, right? That's about a 5-6 minute walk from the parking lot to the area where I go normally. And I had this big wagon just full of stuff. Yeah. And the sign, I'm carrying the sign, and the wheels of the wagon are plastic, and there's a whole bunch of gravel and just dirt and rocks and sand and stuff. So all you hear through the peaceful Freedom Park, people are on dates and picnics and stuff, and they got blankets out, they chilling, they cooling. Dudes trying to mac with their girl and stuff, and all you hear is coming through the park, right? And so even just that, like, for me, I don't want a whole lot of attention. So I'm walking through the park, with this loud thing, with all this stuff, where are you going, bro? You got what are you about to do?
Wow.
So just that, the attention of it that way. Once I got out there, though, it'd be cool. And just really, again, like I said, that whole focus thing, it's a park, so it's a lot of stuff going on. It's times mid-episode where I'm like, I literally lose my train of thought because there's so much happening. I'm trying to process the environment. I'm trying to be aware of my surroundings, but also aware of the conversation, which way is it going to go? And even to this day, sometimes it'd be a challenge because the environment is just not made for that. Right. So that was a big thing.
Talk about, because I love this part of it, because you talked about it on your podcast and while we were out there, but talk about how you overcame that challenge of just the noise, the distractions, and like, because it's so practical that you wouldn't even think, oh, let me do this. Yeah. Right. And so I think that even that will encourage somebody to think outside the box of whatever challenge they may be going through spiritually.
Yeah. So I was out there, I was like, I can't focus. Right. And so I'm thinking through, like, how do you get better at anything? Right. And so even like Navy SEALs and Marines and all that stuff, right? They put them through almost ridiculously intense environments.
They do. So
that when they are in an environment that's chaotic, it feels comfortable. Yeah. So in the same way, literally when I would pray in my room, it sounds crazy. Every time I laugh, when I would pray in my room, I got these pretty big speakers in there. I would go to YouTube and I looked up like New York City soundscapes.
He committed.
Right? And so it's like you literally hear like honking and just the noise of the city, people driving around. You hear that, and I would play it in my room as I prayed to help me learn how to focus through the noise. Now, again, this is a ridiculous example, and this is just kind of what worked for me. Yeah. But as Chae was saying, the point is finding what works in order for you to do what God has called you to do. So for me, it was that. I literally was like, I'm going to pray with all this noise in my room to learn to actually hear God's voice through chaos.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Javis.
No, I was just going to say, like, I love the partnership because what you're doing is like you're showing people how God will, like, in a sense, like when he calls you, he partners with you. Yeah. So he created you for the calling, but you have to commit to the craft. You know, and so like, I'm getting encouraged now because I'm like, man, this man done inconvenienced himself on some Jesus with the woman in the well stuff. Like you inconveniencing yourself. One, you don't like the attention, but you're gonna roll the wagon through, and then just everything. I'm like, man, like this is the behind the scenes, if you will, stuff that we be needing because most people we just see like the ministry, or we see but we don't see the, you know. So yeah, thank you.
Real. Nah, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Because I go, good.
Nah, man. And so even for people watching and listening, like you literally have 3 introverts up here right now, talking about this stuff. Like, so introvert is not an excuse to not do what you're.
That's on the back of the shirt. Go ahead.
What you're called to do. So, all right. We talked about intro. This is going to be a long episode of Code Therapy. This is going to be the longest episode. I'm already letting you know. I'm warning you now. Right. So we talked about the intro, first starting out pieces of Podcast in the Park. So now it's turned into an event pretty much at this point. But before we do that, let's talk about this because there's humble beginnings in this as well. Because you first went out there, and I'm telling the story, so you can live. I'm living you in there. So you went out there initially, and you had a sign that you just wrote with marker. Yeah. And then now you don't elevate it.
I want to do this.
Got a whole sign out. So talk about just even because what it's turned into is not what you originally envisioned, is it?
No, bro. I never once was like, yo, I'm gonna create an event for Christians to come and experience God. Never did that. I did one thing, which led to another thing, which led to another thing. Yeah. And so I just was obedient, and I followed God's steps throughout the way, or his path for me. But no, I was not. I never planned to. So even now, sometimes I'll be looking around like, what's happening? Because I'm like, I didn't want this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but and I think also in the process is like I say this all the time, but like you don't get there if you don't do the first thing, right? So if I say, you know, God gives me the vision to go outside, and another thing is just to trust God,
Yeah.
and to know He knows you enough to know if I would have told Kevin to do this from the beginning,
Right.
he probably would have been like, I would have been on my what is it? Who is it? In the well, Jonah.
John.
I would have been on my Jonah like, nah, I'm good. I ain't doing that. That's too much. Right. I'm out of here. But he knew enough to say, let me give him this vision, this prompting. He'll take it from there, and and then I'll lead him step by step. So even then, if you feel like, well, I know I'm supposed to do a whole bunch, and this thing that God's calling me to is small. You might be missing that is small now, but depending on what God has for you, based on your level of obedience and consistency, it may be something bigger.
Yeah.
So don't feel like, God, you giving me just this little portion of thing to do. And it's like, he might be like, if you would be faithful with the little, I'll give you much. So, so yeah, man, don't, the Bible says don't despise small beginnings. God rejoices to see the work begin. So just start.
I was just going to say, man, like I'm in the shoes of the person watching, and I'm just like, yo, you gotta get around people who actually doing something. Because one, they're gonna understand you. Two, they're not gonna judge you. They're gonna know how to encourage you.
Yeah.
So like, if you are looking to be used by God at another level, probably best to hopefully pray for some people who doing things at another level. Because it's like, man, like I'm sitting here listening at you, and I'm like, one, I'm thankful for the access I have to you. And even them, like you just sharing your story, but I feel comfortable going forward because I'm connected to a Chae Cole, Kevin Wilson. And so, yeah, but I'm just, like I said, I'm just thinking about all the things that we think we need to get going and all the things that are right there in front of us.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Let's lean into that just a little bit before I'm trying to get us there, but
hey, man, take
these,
time,
these
brother.
little things,
It's the extended episode.
So he's talking about the importance of having people. What were the conversations like when you said, yo, I'm going to the park? Like, because even to this day, there's not a model for what you've built. So what is it like being a pioneer in the space? What are the conversations? So it's a multi-layered question.
Yeah.
So what were the conversations like then? Because now everybody's like, oh, podcasts in the park, it's great. But I'm sure when you first started out, like, you about to do what? You about to just random people in the park?
So one, again, using wisdom, you have to be very careful who you tell your dreams, visions, goals to. So fortunately I was. So honestly, I had nothing but support, if I'm being real. I ain't got that story where it was like, everybody's like, that's crazy. Like, the few people I did tell was like, do it. In fact, they encouraged me.
As you lean into that, talk about how you knew who to tell.
Yeah. So one, I look at patterns. And I know that I'm not an outlier, meaning in the sense of people treat everybody how they treat everybody. Meaning, if you dog everybody else's vision, you think I think I'm special enough that if I tell you something, you be like, "Oh, this is surely from heaven." That's who you are, bro. So I'm gonna believe the fruit I see. And I'm gonna follow the fruit I see. So for one, that just through prayer, and then also just discernment of spirits, and being able to say like, "Yo, I feel like this person is solid. I feel like they walk in wisdom, that they have, godly principles. And again, do they speak well of things, and do they have the ability to actually correct when they see. Like, I can't tell somebody something if I know just off the strength of me telling them, they're going to say, yeah, it's great. Because they don't either know better or they don't have the courage to say that that's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
Not with that case, but it's some stuff where you got to be able to be, that's not a good idea, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not a smart or wise thing to do.
Yeah.
So you have that. But then once I actually identified that, talked to the people, told them, it actually was a lot of them pushing me as far as timing. Because I say it sounds good when I say it like, yeah, you just have to have everything figured out. Just take it one step at a time, and then right. It sounds good, but at the moment, I'm real like I'm trying to get everything right. Like, I need this, I need that. Okay, I got the mics, I got this, but I can use that. I can use the real professional sign. Blah blah blah. I want it to be excellent, right? And so it was some people that was like, just go, bro. Like, just go, right? Yeah. So I needed that because. Leave it up to me, I might still not have done it because I'm trying to, it's the thing of like better, what is it? Done is better than perfect. If you just had started it, you can get the reps and learn and make the mistakes and all that. By the time you look up, you've advanced because you took the L's, you've done the things, you messed up, you made the mistakes. But if you don't start, you think that if I have all the right gear, and I have all the right stuff, everything's going to be smooth. Yeah. It's still not going to be smooth. So I really needed that from the people.
That's what's up. So now it's turned into this Christian event that people want to come to, are traveling, even from the beginning.
Crazy.
People coming from other states, other cities just to come. So talk about what Podcast in the Park is now to you.
Yeah, so now it's developed. So it's really, like you said, a place for Christians to have fellowship, to enjoy one another and enjoy God's presence in a way that's unique to right now, in the current times. So you pull up, it's 2 to 6 p.m. You pull up for the first hour or so, we just chilling, having fun, meeting new people. We might have some games or frisbee or whatever the case is. You just having a good time, fellowship. After that, take a little break and then move to a live episode of a Christian podcast. We do that. The time it might be, hour and a half, maybe a little longer if I'm not disciplined that day.
If you feel his help,
right. It might be a little bit longer. And then after that, we move and we have prayer and worship. And so this is all in the middle of the park. And so even how we got there is like I saw the girl pulled up. Like, so you willing to travel to hear us speak on the episode that is going to be posted on YouTube in a week or two. So I'm like, okay, there's something there. And then I'm just recognizing the need for places of fellowship. Chae always be like, create the space, people will come. So God just led me to create that space, and I'm like, I tweaking timing and where like, how do we get people to come? Once they get there, what happens when they get there? We got volunteers now. It's weird, bro, saying that because this is like, so. This is, okay, real life challenges, right? Let's talk about, I'm pivoting a little bit, but let's talk about like the stuff that I see out there, right? Is that it's a unique event. With that being said, it's a little awkward and weird for some people. Like, you gotta think, I just pulled up because the dude, I seen a flyer online and the dude said, be here from 2 to 6 and we're gonna have prayer and worship. Yeah. Some people come by themselves, but, alone. And so one thing I would see is like people would sit there and I could see the discomfort of like, I don't know nobody here. This is awkward. I'm in a chair in the middle of the grass in Freedom Park. Like, it's weird. So even then I have to like talk through, with the team. Like, I'd be like, as quick as possible.
Yeah.
To eliminate that feeling of I'm by myself, I'm weird in the park. So it's just small stuff like that where like fine tuning and seeing like what's issues, how do we fix them?
So there's also a grace in that, just to be able to recognize, you know, in the concern in the heart for people to recognize these different things. What would you say kind of, so I know it was starting to see that. Was there anything that you were like, you know, talk a little bit more about what it morphed into? Because before you just, I'm talking to random people popping up. Now it's turned into a live episode of a Christian podcast with prayer and worship. Like, how did you even get there? Like, what was like what went into this is what it has to become, needs to become? Like, what was that kind of thought process?
So one, I knew being outside, I said it has to shift from, when it comes to podcasts in the park, it has to shift from conversations with random people to conversations with people I know.
Okay.
One, because I don't know what nobody's going to say, right? So think about it. In the conversations I've had, either some of them have had to be like edited, tailored, not used at all, because somebody can literally sit down and say, I hate Jesus. That's it. He's the worst, and leave. I have no control over that. So I realized I had to have two modes of going to the park. One is podcast in the park, the event. And then one is going back to by myself or maybe with a person or two and just actually talking to those strangers, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for what's said on the mic. So we hand somebody a mic that's connected to two speakers. They got access to say anything. So now I had to be like, all right, who's going to be on here? What are we going to talk about? It's shifting more from a conversation of inquiring about you to a conversation. It's still a conversation, but it's with the end goal of either educating, edifying, encouraging, or in some way just giving the people some nuggets, knowledge, wisdom, whatever it is, in a unique way. So that's kind of what it's turned into. Because I'm like, I'm realizing people came here for a reason. So they had to leave with something. So that was really my thought process.
So even in that, and Javis, after this question, you hop in there, but how do you determine what to talk about now? Like, I don't want to get into, people selection, because I don't want anybody to be like, he never picked me and I came to the podcast all the time. But in terms of like selecting topics, like, how do you know what even to talk about? Like, what goes into, okay, we're going to talk about this today on a Christian podcast?
So one is just real life, meaning when stuff happens or issues happen, or I hear somebody make a complaint or they have a revelation or whatever, I'm quick to like write it down and be like, well, that'd be good to talk about. So one, I be telling people I'm not as creative as people think. Like, I just know how to take stuff from life and put it into this. So I don't be, sometimes I do, but not as much as people think I do. Am I sitting there like, let's come up with the ideas? Like, I got over 4,000 notes in my phone because I just write stuff down. So that, and then there are those modes where I do sit down and say, okay, what's going on? Like, Lord, I pray, Lord, show me what we should talk about. What are people dealing with? Where can we give people some value? I do have those modes. And sometimes it's just seeing what's being talked about on social media, right? What are people? And then sometimes I ask the people online, what do y'all want to hear? Ain't no point in me just coming up with stuff if y'all don't want to hear it.
Right.
And then the last thing is, which these are really my favorite episodes. Sometimes I'll be thinking about just doing that all the time. Sometimes we do Q&A episodes. Where literally we don't have nothing prepared. We just show up put the thing online, have them ask the questions, and whatever they ask, that's where we kind of filtering through that and going with that.
That's what's up. Go ahead, Javis.
So I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, okay, he covered being committed to the craft, right? The example about you being in the room, preparing to be in an environment where it's not really ideal for ministry. Then I heard that you were committed to a cadence, meaning, okay, now I got to be on call all day to take notes down because I may get something that would be profitable for the people. So now I just can't show up. I got to make sure that there's a system. And then you committed to the customer. So talk about how. No, I'm just organizing for everybody listening. Talk about how the balance between being excited for, doing ministry and what God gave you, but also balancing like, hey, at the end of the day, I'm doing this for the people I'm called to.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. And I think like it stems from one, just discerning God's will. Like, what do you want to do? Because I got a million things I could talk about.
Yeah.
What do you want to do, God, and what do the people need? And maybe not need. Maybe it's just like, what do they want? Because it's not to that. If I'm being real, going early into podcast in the park, like early mid, I felt like the burden almost to fulfill people's needs through the podcast.
Wow.
Right? And then I had to come to the revelation and understanding I'm not a church. Christian podcast is not a church. Podcast in the park is not church.
That's good.
I'm not, this is not, if people need to be educated on this, it's not that. It's one, what do you want to talk about? Me, like, you're the person doing it. What do you want to talk about? What do you think people would be interested in? Because let's go back to the root.
Okay.
It started out with like conversations on couches like this. Let's just talk. It wasn't, okay, we need to make sure that you know how to renew your mind or else you're going to live a life. Like, it didn't start out that way. And so in my hunger for God, it started to go that way to where I was like, I felt like I need to educate the people, which in part I do. I feel like I need to, give the people, which in part I do. But God showed me like, yo, you don't have the responsibility of meeting the people's needs as a pastor or a church does. So that freed me. And I was like, at the end of the day, if we just talk about whatever they want, it's cool.
Nah, you hit on the head.
Nah, I mean that in of itself is freeing to one. It shows the humility, right? And the obedience and the submission to recognize I'm not the church. I'm not your pastor.
Right. That's a weight.
If you take it from an immoral standpoint, it's like, oh, you people coming out here, I can shepherd these people.
Wow.
Right? And I mean, I don't want to get on a tangent here, but that could have been the posture that you took, like, a Christian podcast, we got a little church out here. Y'all pull up on Saturdays, start paying your tithes and offering, and
we're gonna throw around the offering budget.
So I mean, even in just hearing you share that. So Javis, you haven't been to Podcast in the Park, but you've watched.
It's about that time
online. Tell me what you see viewing online. Like, what is your perspective of not being in the atmosphere, but just viewing online? Like, what is your perspective of like what you've seen through that thus far?
Refreshing. When I think about, and I can't speak for every church or every Christian, but when I just think about what you see online or what you hear from the pulpit, we have issues going on, in the body. And one of them is the experience that a believer will have being connected to a church. So I'm just thinking about all those people who have left churches. This is a space for them to come and kind of reset, be refreshed. And it's open to anybody. You could be committed to a church and still come. But I'm just thinking about those people that are on the verge of leaving God. And it's like they don't really probably have the language of, okay, what's leaving God and what's leaving the church?
Yeah.
Because it's two separate things. And so I'm just thinking about how you are feeling the need for people who like, man, I really don't want to, I miss community, but I don't want to go back to that. And you providing them an opportunity to come, which, and I don't know if you talked to old girl, the first one who came. I don't know if you talked to her. That probably the drive that long to come and pull up.
Yeah.
It's probably was that refreshing moment for her. And so that's what I've seen online. And I'm excited to get there and really experience it, because that's my heart for people who are not having the best experience with church. And we know that all churches can't be perfect,
Right.
but there is a standard in which it should be functional. So I think Podcast in the Park is that, and I'm excited to get in there and experience it. Then I'm gonna serve. But I told him, let me get in there and get it, and then I'm gonna start serving. So refreshing.
That's wise, bro. That's wise to even be like, let me experience first before I just jump in. So appreciate that, man.
So lean into that, Javis, talking about having a space, like, so having not experienced it, and then Kevin, watching it, and then even hearing him talk now about providing a space to ask questions and things of that nature. Like, what has your experience been? Like, do you see value in having that space to even just ask a question? Like, bro, I got questions. Like, is that your experience or?
Yeah. So one, I think churches have spaces for people to come and get what we call get ministered to. But it's pretty structured, like the average church probably moving around 45 to an hour 15, at least over here in the Western world, out in my church back in Orlando, they had a minister from Africa come, and he was finished when he was finished, so we was in there all afternoon, but most churches are pushing 45, and not limiting what God can do in that time, but we know that we have to walk this thing out called discipleship. So I'm just excited that Podcast in the Park, not that it's absent of theatrics in terms of like, the church has all this going on, but it's just a space where it's not a lot going on, and that you meeting somebody can lead to a conversation at somewhere to eat, right? You can really sit and go back and forth and not be worried about all that's going on that would happen on a Sunday. And again, nothing against it, but it's just, people have their preferred environments where they feel comfortable releasing things. And so I know that Podcast in the Park is definitely that. Yeah.
I was going to say, one of my favorite things about Podcast in the Park is when I see people that met at Podcast in the Park, just like out doing life. Oh, yeah. Like, sometimes I'll be like, one of the coolest things, I'm scrolling on Instagram and I look at somebody's story and I see them hanging out with somebody they connected with at the park. I'm like, that's all I can ask for. Like connecting, making those friendships, relationships. Like that's really what a lot, especially that first portion of it, is about. Is like, bro, we the body of Christ. A lot of people don't have Christian friends for real. Like walking in the same direction, doing the same thing, and it's like, man, if the people not here, where they at? What they doing? And so to have a place where they can feel comfortable, come, pull up, meet other like-minded people, bro, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what's up. You got a question for Javis? You got
I was going to say, what, from your perspective, right?
Yeah.
What have Christian spaces outside of the church, if any, been like for you?
Yeah, the woman at the well and the Nicodemus, right? So those are two spaces where that conversation, let's do the woman at the well. I don't think that conversation, she would have been open to having that conversation probably in a structured environment like a church, right? And I'm not sure if she had or hadn't, but that's just a principle that we can take that, Jesus met her where, one, she was basically hiding, but we understand that she was coming to get that water at the hottest part of the day. So when I think about Podcast in the Park, it's not ideal. It can rain at any moment. You know what I'm saying? Like the sun can just start beaming at any moment. And just all the benefits that will come with just doing it in an enclosed environment. But no, you was like, I'm gonna come out here and go through all those inconveniences. And so that's one way. And then with Nicodemus, like he came at night because he wasn't comfortable expressing himself or asking certain questions, maybe in front of everybody. Yeah. And I just want to encourage somebody, like, don't feel bad about how you need to be ministered to. Because that's something that I've been able to embrace. If I can just be honest, even today with y'all, it's certain things I can't come out and talk about, and I can't let the enemy tell me that you're being secretive. I have to just embrace, like, okay, this is what I need. And I chose to do it in a space like this, or in a space like Podcast of the Park, right? It's a lot going on. You can step to the side, or you're like, hey, can we go grab a bite to eat? So yeah.
That's dope.
You feel like you haven't seen that before? Like, those haven't been spaces that you've had before that you're kind of embracing now?
It's twofold. Is one, it's my responsibility, right? I have to, step up. But two, I don't think it's been as emphasized that we can have Nicodemus moments. And so, like I said, and that's why I just want to encourage somebody, like, yo, don't feel bad that when they make an altar call, you don't go. And I would even say, don't feel bad if you feel you need to go, but you're just fighting, like, I don't want to do it like this. Listen, I'm going to just say there is grace for you, and there's a space where it may be better for you to get what you need, which is why I love how the church organically started. Yeah. Like with right here, so.
That's good.
What would you say, both of y'all can chime in on this too, what would you say to the person that's like, okay, I see Kevin posting about pulling up to the park, or maybe it's not podcast in the park because body, like Kevin said, body of Christ, like anything kingdom we support. Yeah. So someone that I trust or don't know or whatever, led by the Spirit of God, but I feel the Holy Spirit leading me to go to this event. What would you say to the person that's like nervous or anxious about, like, I don't know these people? Like, what would you say to that person, like, taking that? I mean, we all introverts here, so naturally we gonna be like, who else gonna be there? So what would y'all say to them?
Yeah, I'm thinking first, like, understanding the reason for your anxiousness or anxiety with that. Like, is it in the place itself, or is it in you, how you be perceived, anything like that? Right? Yeah. If you have apprehension about the place and you've been prayerful about it, and you feel like God's saying, like, you don't need to be there, then be obedient to that and don't go. But if the place itself and the space itself is, you feel like is spirit led, is good, I think you just have to. I don't have a shortcut, but it's really just like, you got to go out there and be okay with being uncomfortable. Yeah. And just saying, like, God, if this is the place you want me to be at, let me come, let me experience everything you have for me while I'm here. Let me meet people. You just got to do what's uncomfortable. Because, like you said, we all introverts here, right? Bro, podcast in the park, it's starting to be comfortable. But, dog, you would have asked me 5 years ago, 3 years ago, would I do this? Would I be able to do this? I'd be like, are you joking? No. Like, I'm really an introverted, shy, at heart guy. So through learning, been able to be more social. But let's say all that to say, embrace what's uncomfortable if you know that God is in it. So,
yeah, I would say, to piggyback, taking the steps, like the children of Israel, they took fruit first and then took the land by 4 seconds. So just come out there, this guy, because that's how I'm seeing it in my head as he was talking. I'm like, okay, so come out there. Maybe the first time you don't engage as much. Maybe you just look.
Games, see what's going on.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? The second time, hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm from. And so just come, see what it's about. And then maybe the second or third time, it'll begin to open up. Because that's, I met these guys at different times, but I met them, I've known them a lot longer than I've been able to open up to them. And so I had to, like the children of Israel, I had to assess fruit, and then I was able to find a deeper level of friendship. So I would say that to that person, like, don't feel pressured to come out and jump right in. That may not be your temperament. For some people it is. Yeah. But for you, it may be like, it may take me a few times before I leave with a connection, and that's fine.
That's good. And I think this episode is just, confirmation for somebody watching that maybe you've been on the fence about coming out there, or another event that the Holy Spirit is leading you to go to. Because like you can actually hear from Kevin's heart about Kevin's heart. I'm sorry.
You gotta put a little picture of Kevin's heart right there.
Yo,
You can actually hear from his heart.
That's crazy.
And what has been done to, provide that space where people feel comfortable coming to.
For sure.
And even, the number of testimonies of, and just the evidence of people connecting with one another. Coming to the church we worship at. Or going to somebody else's church, or whatever the case may be, learning about churches in the area, all these different things as benefits that even if they didn't come back, even if they came one time, but they made a connection or met somebody that has become a friend, a brother or sister in Christ, or even led them to a church. If they're new to the area or thinking about moving to Charlotte, now when you come to Charlotte, I know some people. There's all these different things or possibilities that exist. So, Kevin, what can people expect from Podcast in the Park?
I think they can expect for their expectation to be fulfilled. In the sense of, I'm not gonna sell you this big dream of it's gonna be a perfect experience and everything's gonna be what you expect.
Yeah.
There's people that come to Podcast in the Park and have the best time of their life, and I'm sure there's people that have come and been like, mid, right? Based on expectation and what they desire out of it, right? And so I would say, one, as far as just posture coming into it, like. Yo, Lord, what do you want me to experience from this? I know they have prayer. I know they have fellowship. I know they have worship. But, what do you want me to take out of it? And engaging God's heart in that matter. But to actually answer your question, because I went a little, you know what I'm saying? A little. No, but, like I said, you come there and I'm going to go back a little bit because I met somebody that said, in between seasons, and they said, I wanted to come, but I didn't have nobody to come with. And I was like, dang, don't, if that's the only reason why, don't let that stop you. Pull up. But once you get there, it's people just having a good time. Some people, and one thing, I don't like to force people to do stuff. I hate when you go to those events and they be like, all right, everybody. And it's like, so if you want to, we have stuff over here. If you want to, we have games and frisbees and the little whatever the game is where we be going crazy. But if not, some people just sit there, kick it, cool it. They bring their food, bring some water because it be hot out there. But bring your food, whatever. They just kick it and they just chilling. And so even in that, it's the beginning part is whatever you want it to be for real. But I'll say push yourself. If you're, introverted, shy, don't let I don't know anybody. Don't let that be the excuse to stop you. And in that episode of the podcast, it's different based on the topic, but usually we do have a way where people can engage and ask questions virtually, usually sometimes in person.
Nice.
And then we'll try to get to those, if possible. And then after that, it's that time where you really engage in prayer and worship. And it's different. It's new. Typically at church, you have worship. Lights are low as possible. You don't want anybody to, be seen, which is, I think, is good in itself because you don't want to attract attention to yourself while you're worshiping. It's about God. But one of the dopest things about worship at Podcast in the Park is sometimes when I just look around and I see just people passing by, just what's going on? What they doing? Or I see some people just join from walking around the park. They all right. And one of the dopest things last year, this girl was with her friends. They was just chilling. She literally runs over mid worship. And she just joins us in worship. and she just leaves and goes back with her friends.
Wow.
And like for me, like the fact, and they was wilding a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, she wasn't dressed appropriately.
Right.
But she came as she was.
Yeah.
Come on.
Experienced God and went back. And I don't know what happened from there, but just the fact that she felt that me, how I am, I can come to this place, worship, and do my. That's it. Like that was top. That was top.
Yeah.
Top 3 moments for real at the park for me.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's what's up. You got something, Javis?
No, I'm just the safe place. Like that joke is crazy. Like that's the first time I heard that. But the fact that she felt comfortable to come, and so it puts a challenge on churches when they say come as you are. But do people really feel like that? And then it's like, and I'm trying to process in real time in my mind. Like I know that there's structure, there's respect, you know. But at the same time, where do we find that line of really, no, you can pull up as you are, because we can't expect people to change before they get God.
Bro, I talked to y'all about this meeting I had, right?
Yeah.
What does it say in as big of letters as possible?
Actually be prepared for people to come as they are.
Like, actually be prepared.
Yeah.
Like, we say it, you know, people say it, come as you are, come as you are. Then when they come as they are, you came here like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you really, and so it's like, let's let them for real come as they are and not be judgmental. So,
That's real, bro. So I can't have these two on here and not give them an opportunity, you know, to go crazy. This is not the part that I told y'all about, by the way. I want to ask this question. So, essentially, while you're out there, there's evangelism that takes place, right? So talk to me about evangelism, Kevin. Like, what is it? What have you seen just from being at the park? Like, what is your experience with that?
For sure. So yeah, evangelism is the spreading of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's really all it is. The end goal of evangelism is to bring people to Christ, to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Now, there's layers and parts and different ways of doing that, but that's the core of it. Is helping people know who Jesus is, or if they know who He is, helping them realize that they need Him as their Lord and Savior and come to that conclusion, right? So there's so many ways to do that. There's corporate, there's individualistic, like there's so many different ways. Right. But one of the things we do as we go out there and engage is just like meet the people where they are, in the sense of, who are you? What do you? Oh, that's a cool tattoo. What's that tattoo about? Like, you show them that I care about you as a human being. Yeah. I'm not just trying to. Do you know Jesus? Do you know the Lord and Savior?
Yeah, that's
like,
good.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so get to know the person. Who are you? You know, I love your dog, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about the dog. I just want to talk to you. Yeah. So getting to know them and ask them their perspective, right? Like, sometimes it's always just Jesus. And that's great. We need Jesus. But if we don't get to the heart of a person first, woman of the well, he said he got her attention by knowing who she was. Now, Jesus is Jesus, right? And so through the Spirit of God, he was able to know that she had 5 husbands, and the woman and the man that she was with now was not hers. But for us, and we can discern that, we can, by the Spirit of God, be privy to knowledge outside of our own being. But when we can, this is what I see about you. That's a dope shirt. I ain't telling you that you had 5 husbands, but I'm getting into your space to build that comfort, and like, wow, you see me. So that, and then at the end of the day, sometimes you plant seeds, sometimes you water. Yeah. But I often tell people, I planted way more seeds than I've actually seen people give their life to Christ in the moment.
That's good.
right? Like, that's where I am in this part of life. And I think there's different graces and anointings for different seasons.
Right.
And I do think I will get to a place where many people are drawn by God to give their life to Christ there. Mm-hmm. Right now, he has me in a seed planting, seed watering season where my thing is like, talk to the person, get to the heart of them, tell them who Jesus is.
Yeah.
I always say to people, I'm not going to make you make a decision.
Yeah.
Right? If you feel led by the Spirit of God right now, then let's do it.
Yeah.
But if not, cool. Sit with that. If you believe in God, pray. If you don't believe in God, say, if you're real,
Yeah.
then show me, like, make yourself known to me. And so it's really just meeting the people where they are and giving them an opportunity to know who Jesus is.
So what I'm hearing is you avoiding unnecessary stress because you can discern the season.
Yeah.
So if I'm expecting for it to be winter, but it's spring, now I'm looking at God like, bruh, I thought you called me. That's not the season.
That's a good perspective, bro.
Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing, because I'm like, man, like, I know that we're talking to a variety of people right now. Some of them are receiving, but some of them are builders, pioneers like yourselves, and so they need to hear that, yo, I'm not a failure. It's just not that season yet. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you for, shedding light on that. That was,
Wow, that's a good perspective, bro.
Yeah,
You got to know the season.
Yee, that'll preach. No, that's real. I wanted you to point out anything you want to add about evangelism.
I think you hit it on the head in terms of you got to see the person. Because we got the internet now. They online. They seeing all type of stuff. And it's just like, they turned off. And so the first thing you could do is pull up and so it's like, hold on, let me make sure that this ain't that. And so when you say to see the person, that's something where you automatically distinguish yourself as the true believer, and you would know them by their fruit. And so, yeah.
That's good. Now, I wanted to bring that out because even before we touched on that, you said it in that you were pointing people to God. If I don't know the answers, God does. So I can point you to him, right? Because I'm afraid that if we aren't careful, evangelism will turn into inviting people to my church. That's not evangelism.
No.
Ooh.
That can be a tool.
Yeah.
Right? That's a step.
At most.
But evangelism is, as you define, introduction to Jesus Christ, right?
Yes.
Informing you, telling you, leading you to Christ. That is evangelism. It's not the invitation to podcast in the park.
No.
It's not the Christian event, the worship night, the church.
It's also not just living a good Christian life.
Or wearing the t-shirt.
Right.
Or posting in my bio.
Right. So all of those things can point people to Christ in a way.
Yeah.
But we often say, one of the ways to evangelize is do right. Don't cuss at work. Don't, have your Bible out at work or whatever. That's cool. Evangelism is spreading the message of Jesus Christ. Anything short of that can be good,
right?
But we can't categorize it as evangelism. That's part of your Christian life and duties.
Yeah.
To share, you shouldn't be like, me not cussing is evangelism.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not. You just, as a byproduct of your salvation, right? And you may be working through that, but part of that is coming to a place of purity where my language is just wholesome. And as a product, some people might be inspired by that, and that's great. But we got to get back to the root of what evangelism is.
Yeah, and really, it's just a call to understanding the foundations of the faith. Like, I think there's also an abundance of people who can wear the name Christian, but don't really understand sacrifice of Jesus, right? That he came, he lived a perfect life, he died, right, for our sins, and he was resurrected, and he ascended, right? Because we a lot of times we stop it, right. But he ascended.
That's true.
So having that understanding, having that, like, in even the deeper revelation of John 3:16, right, of taking it a step further to understanding that sacrifice, and being able to explain it to someone else. It's not, let me lead you to my pastor or lead you to Kevin, who's going to then lead you to Christ. As believers, we should all, the Great Commission is it did say pastors, apostles, bishops.
Yeah, my notes, bruh.
It says, go ye therefore.
Bruh.
He's talking to the disciples.
Yeah, my notes.
Go ahead, Bishop.
No, I literally just said, I have this thing, I say, putting evangelism back in the hands of everyday believers. It's not just for evangelists.
Yeah.
Right? I don't call myself an evangelist, if we're being real. People say that because they see what I do. Right. I'm like, no, I'm not. Right now, at least, I'm not called to the office of evangelism. I'm just a Christian.
Yeah.
Right?
Every believer should evangelize.
100%.
Doesn't necessarily mean you're an evangelist. Everyone should be gifted to evangelize.
100%. That's what every spiritual gift that you have in some way should be helping people be pointed to Christ. So if the only reason you're desiring gifts of God is so you can be cool, or you know what I'm saying, tell
Or
people
draw people
stuff
to
about,
yourself, or your platform.
Yeah, tell people, you know, hey, I know that you live at 113. It's like that's that. In doing that, does that point them to Christ? If it does, cool. If not, it's flesh.
It's flesh.
And then even John 1, right? John 3, but then you have John 1. We have to say like women of the well, first evangelist, right? I also see John 1, Jesus walking. John's with his disciples.
Come on, sir.
John's with his own disciples. He says, behold, right? Behold, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world, right? And another time he sees him, the Lamb of God. And it says, John's disciples left him and went and followed Jesus. So John, you know, while he is a prophet, right? While he is a voice in the wilderness, he also, I'm not going to call him an evangelist. I'm going to say he is a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ that pointed the people that are following him to the one that actually can do something for them. And so he says, yo, that's the one you need to follow. They immediately, I think it was what? Andrew and Peter? No, I ain't going to even misquote it. But either way, whoever they are, two of John's disciples become disciples of Jesus because John recognizes who Jesus is, as Chae pointed out, and then he also not only does that, but he points them to Jesus. Right? Hold on, I want to get that person who the two people are, because I think they're part of the 12, aren't they?
Yeah, Andrew,
yes, and his brother Simon. So then you have two pillars in the Christian church. Who, if John was like a gatekeeper, if John was like, yeah, nah, I need them to follow me.
Yeah.
Does he ever point to Jesus? Right? So
that's good. Javis?
Nah, bro. Like, I'm just thinking about how we may have to redefine church, because it's like we can't hoard, right? So it's like
hoarders.
Like, it's like, dang, like.
Not gospel gatekeeper.
Yo, I ain't never heard that in my life.
Gospel Gatekeepers, Volume 3.
Nah, I'm blown away by that, because I'm thinking like, yo, in traditional companies, you don't want turnover. But in the kingdom,
a whole nother podcast.
In the kingdom is like, no, you should want turnover. It should always be gathering and pointing, and so it's like. That messed me up thinking about it.
We're going to have to stop it here because Javis is pulling on a bag. That,
we can keep going, bro.
He going to get some stuff started. So, that's good. That's good. All right. We go end it.
We're like, Chae Cole, this is too long. We're not used to this.
You have been used to milk. And
there it is. Solid food.
That boy said, you said gospel gatekeeping? You're wild. I ain't never heard that in my life.
We gonna get there on a future episode, but and I talked about it. Y'all came to hear me speak, but you know that's just one of the pet peeves right now. Is just the abundance, and I coined this term meology in our theology, which thus affects our Christology and our pneumatology, because everything is pointing to me or what I can get out of it. And that can unfortunately go for people leading churches or having platforms and things of that nature. And so I really think, getting back to the evangelism piece and just what Podcast in the Park is even, is, and cold therapy, because I got to throw that in there too. Like, I'm not trying to build disciples of Chae, because Chae can't take you nowhere. But I know a man who can. Yeah. And his name is Jesus. Come on, somebody.
That's it. Take us up. Hand me the organ.
Nah, but that in of itself is good, man. Like, just to see you pointing to Jesus, which is what we need in of itself. So, like I said, and I already warned them before, y'all can't come on the Cold Therapy Podcast without giving the people a word of encouragement. So, Javis, go ahead, hop in there. What you got for the people, man?
Man, just listening to, you call the man Bishop?
Bishop.
Nah, to listen to Kevin's story, man, it's just, you got to start. I think some of your sanctification is in you starting. Some of the things that you want to get healed from or free from or experience is in you just starting. I think from what I heard from your story is that you develop, especially in becoming more agile. I heard all the adjustments you had to make that I know for myself, I've stopped myself because it's like I'm trying to make the adjustments before I even get to the point where I got to make it. And then to be off about what's going to happen because we prophesy in part and one part. And so I just want to encourage somebody like, find a group of people that will authentically support you. That means not co-signing on everything that would challenge you in a healthy way, but that will help you get the ball rolling. People you can have those conversations with and whatever is burning in your heart. And it may not be a podcast, but it may be writing a book or whatever you feel God pushing you to do. I pray that you will find those people who can help you get going. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. Go ahead, Bishop, close us out.
Thank you, Prophet. Apostle. Since we call him names. Nah, man, I just feel like I feel a call to really just encourage you and invite you to do what God has called you to do in the season, right? Like, we often talk about people going too fast. Like in some places there's a speed limit, but then there's also a speed minimum.
What teaching?
Like certain places, like you see that on certain highways. It says speed limit. Like you better at least go 45, right? Because why? Certain people going too slow actually causes more accidents than people going too fast. And so, a lot of times we comfort ourselves in not doing too much, doing too fast, doing, at least I'm not wilding out or out of order or do it all, blah, blah. And it's like, you're not doing that, but you're not doing anything.
Ooh.
And so, if that's you, that's not to condemn you, but it is to convict you in a way that spurs you to want to say, all right, Lord, what do you have for me in this season? What in this time? We say season, but like right now, what do you want me to do? Just be obedient to that. Take it step by step, and just pray that God gives you the boldness, and just the fire to do what He's called you to. And understand that fire and boldness doesn't always feel like
that's big.
I gotta go out there. Sometimes fire and boldness just means I had the idea, and I know I should do it, and I'm going to do it. The fire is the fact that you did it.
That's good.
It's not an emotion.
The boldness is the fact that you did it.
Wow.
Right? Sometimes it's like, I need to feel like,
Yeah.
Like sometimes podcasts in the park, as much as I talked about it and hyped it up, I'd be lying here if I said sometimes I'm like, because sometimes I am like, all right, that's a lot. Like, but just pray that God gives you the boldness to go out. Like it says, Book of Acts, Peter and them, they got literally arrested for healing someone. It says, upon their release, they rejoiced and prayed that God would give them boldness to go out and do more stuff. And so I'm like, that's different. You just got arrested, and now you like, yo, more. We want more.
Yeah.
And so just pray, God, help me to do what you called me to do.
That's what's up, man. I know y'all been blessed by. Okay, he's not a bishop. He's not a prophet yet. Keyword. Yet.
Same for you, brother.
But nah, man, I appreciate y'all hopping on it and having this conversation, man. I just encourage y'all to just keep doing what you're doing, Javis, man. Like the way that you navigate conversations and the way that you see and then illuminate it for people to then thus understand what you see, and then it brings another revelation to what has been shared. Like continue to lean into that and
Thank you, brother.
and just continue to do that, because the way that you are able to paint the picture of what somebody may have said and bring it to light in a way that, okay, what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and I'm thinking about it from this perspective, and then to paint and even use references from the Bible, like I'm thinking of the woman at the well and how, you know, these different things. So continue to lean into that
brother.
as well, man. And then Kevin, man, just everything I tell you privately, man, but you know, just to see, I wanted people more so to hear your heart on what Podcast in the Park is, because you can see the event, you can see the man behind it, and you can think, oh man, he's out of touch, not out of reach, or like this is just another one of those Christian events, and then never truly understand the vision, the story, the heart behind it, and just to hear your humility even as we're sitting here. Like I think that's the most, like that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from it, was just the humility behind everything, like the humility, the intentionality behind everything, and just the submission to the Holy Spirit to say, okay, all right, you want me to go to the park? All right, let's do it. And then trusting him along the way. And then the concern for the people as well on the other side, man. So don't take that for granted. Don't take a Christian podcast, because Charlotte, I'm telling you, you better tap in right now, because the nations are calling, as we like to say in the church. Why everybody call it to the nations?
No, right. Sometimes you just call it to the backyard.
Can he be called to Charlotte? He not called to Charlotte. That's another story. He called to Charlotte for right now. So lean in while you got it, Charlotte. So Javis, tell the people how they can tap in with you. You got some stuff coming. You gonna be back. So you got some stuff cooking up in the pot. So tell people how they can tap in with you.
So right now I'm in the season of building a business, and what I'm learning is that you can't just build it in the natural, and not to get like deep, but like you got to build it understanding how you're wired emotionally, right? I love hearing his story because I saw the resilience, right? And even Chae, he over there giving us our flowers, but this man is resilient as well.
Thanks.
If you look at all the episodes he did, and if you're somebody who's even stepping out to do something,
Thanks.
you already know that's not easy. And so there's some people who may struggle emotionally when it comes to resilience. And so you got to build it like that. And then you have to build it spiritually with prayer, right? There are some things that just don't want you to do what God called you to do. And though we may see it naturally, the spiritual realm is a casual realm. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm learning that, you got to build it on all levels. But you can find me at Javis Howard on Instagram. I think all my socials are that. And like I said, right now I'm taking a hiatus, but I'll be back soon. We just plowing.
He out there
Preach
cooking
the whole
up.
message in
He
it.
out there cooking up.
He's smooth with it.
Kev, go ahead and tell the people, you got to throw in Fire Night too. We got to get you back. So it's gonna be a part 3 with a Christian podcast on Cold Therapy, because we got to talk about Fire Night too. That man going crazy.
Yeah.
You got from one event to the next event. We don't know what's next.
We get
man.
one a quarter.
Y'all already probably follow this man, because y'all follow Cold Therapy because y'all see me out there.
Hey, look, we gotta support one another, man. But we got a Christian podcast. I don't know when this episode coming out, but Podcast in the Park. The first one will be April 27th.
Let's
Coming
go.
out this Sunday, bro.
Oh yeah.
Check
April 27th. Tap in, right? Then we got Fire Night, June 14th. Fire.
Let's go.
Fire Night is just a night of prayer and worship. keep it simple, and we just love Jesus and go crazy.
Social media.
The podcast is on Instagram at A Christian Podcast. My personal is _normally different _ and then anything else probably is A Christian Podcast, or definitely on YouTube A Christian Pod, or just type in A Christian Podcast with Kevin Wilson. That's it.
Turn up, man.
Turn up.
This is a solid episode. We're gonna end this episode a little differently because I got a Christian podcast on. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, thank you all for tuning in to Cold Therapy, man. Like and subscribe to the podcast. Do all the YouTube stuff at Cold Therapy, all that stuff. If you're new, if you're watching for the first time, yeah. So we're gonna do it this way. Remember to make today worth living. Peace.
Yes, sir.